Hello everyone, welcome back to Unveiling Mythical Legends. Today we are going to explore a legend that shocked the entire ancient world, the origin of the Trojan War. This wasn't just a war, but an epic that intertwined the fates of heroes and the rise and fall of nations. Today we will uncover the myth of Troy, from Paris and Helen's forbidden love to those fateful decisions that changed history. Get ready for a story filled with betrayal, wisdom, and the intertwining of destiny. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any exciting stories. The story of Troy is one of the most dramatic and impactful events in ancient Greek mythology, affecting the fates of heroes, the rise and fall of nations, and even changing the course of history. Among these complex and gripping plots, the fate of Troy became a symbol of ancient civilization, and one of the most famous stories is the love affair between Paris and Helen. It all began with a fateful choice, a disregard for the gods, and an unending war. Troy, the city built by the ancient hero Elos, was located near the Hellespont in Asia Minor, and geographically, it was an extremely important hub for transportation and trade. The history and glory of this city were sustained by the rulers of the Trojan dynasty, with the most famous of them being King Priam, whose reign was undoubtedly one of the highlights of Troy's history. Priam's wife, Hecuba, was a wise and highly prophetic woman. Her ability to foresee the future not only allowed her to know of impending disasters, but also brought numerous conflicts and tragedies to her family. One of Hecuba's dreams foretold that her second son, Paris, would be the one to bring about the destruction of Troy. This terrifying prophecy forced Hecuba to expose her newborn son on Mount Ida, hoping that this would rid him of the ominous fate. However, fate's designs often work against the will of men, and the abandoned infant was eventually found by a shepherd, who raised him. As he grew, the boy became known for his unparalleled beauty and courage. Under the name Alexander, Helper of Man, he rose to become a powerful hero. Alexander, also known as Paris, displayed extraordinary talents as he grew up. His bravery and strength made him a hero in protecting the flock, able to fend off wild animals and even confront bandits. Over time, Paris became a well-respected figure in the local area, attracting the attention of many. However, fate could not be avoided. One day, by chance, Paris arrived at the city of Troy, where he engaged in a contest with two of the princes, Hector and Deiphobus. The outcome of this contest revealed his true identity. It turned out that he was the biological son of King Priam and Queen Hecuba, a discovery that filled the entire family with joy and surprise. Despite this revelation, his parents did not fear the ominous prophecy of the past, but instead chose to forget it, even holding a grand celebration to honor the return of their son. At this moment, fate once again gave Paris a chance to make a choice. King Priam tasked Paris with a seemingly simple but truly dangerous mission, to demand the return of a beautiful woman, Hesione, from King Menelaus of Greece. Hesione was the daughter of King Laomedon of Troy and one of the spoils of war of the Greek hero Heracles. She had been captured by Heracles and taken to Greece, and this mission was intended as an act of revenge for the humiliation of the past. However, this mission did not go as smoothly as Paris had expected. Cassandra, Paris's sister, was deeply concerned about the journey. She warned her brother that if he ignored her prophecy and brought back Helen, it would bring catastrophic consequences to Troy. Despite Cassandra's warning, which was full of wisdom and truth, Paris chose to disregard it and set out for Greece with a fleet. When Paris arrived in Sparta, he met Helen for the first time, the wife of King Menelaus of Sparta, and the most beautiful woman of the era. Helen's beauty had spread far and wide, and countless heroes and princes had competed for her love. Her marriage had been arranged by King Tyndareus of Sparta to avoid causing a war. In the Spartan court, Paris was treated as a guest of honor, and during a banquet, he successfully charmed Helen with his extraordinary allure and diplomatic skills. As time passed, the bond between Paris and Helen grew stronger, and Paris fell deeply in love with the beautiful woman. He decided to risk everything to take her with him. This decision ultimately sparked a war that would shock the world, the Trojan War. In a moment of opportunity, Paris successfully abducted Helen from the Spartan palace and fled with her to Troy. This event immediately prompted the Greek coalition to retaliate. When Menelaus heard that Helen had been abducted by Paris, it was like a devastating storm, instantly overturning the peace he and his family had known. Menelaus was frantic, filled with anger and resentment. He knew that this betrayal was not only an insult to him personally, but also to all of Greece. Therefore, he decided to seek help from his wise and politically astute old friend, King Nestor of Pylos, to find a way to handle this crisis. Nestor, the elderly but still wise king, was well known in the Greek city-states for his experience in governance and his broad insights. After listening to Menelaus's account, Nestor did not immediately provide a simple solution, but instead, after a moment of deep reflection, he offered profound advice. He told Menelaus that to reclaim Helen, the strength of just one kingdom would not be enough. Only the united efforts of all the Greek city-states could stand against the powerful and wealthy Troy. Nestor's wisdom lay in his understanding of the situation's core. The strength of Greece came from the unity of all the kingdoms, and it was this unity that was the only hope for defeating an enemy as powerful as Troy. Upon hearing this, Menelaus immediately understood Nestor's meaning. Together with Agamemnon, he decided to summon the heroes of all Greek nations to gather and wage a war that was destined to change the course of history. This was not just about reclaiming Helen, it was about defending the dignity and honor of all the Greek city-states. Menelaus's summons rang out like a thunderclap, stirring countless heroes and warriors into action. Many of them had once courted Helen and felt an inescapable duty to join this war of revenge. Others, driven by a love of adventure, joined the impending war. But regardless of their motivations, all of them knew that if this insult went unanswered, it would bring an indelible shame upon Greece. Soon, an army composed of countless heroes and warriors assembled. This army contained nearly all of the finest fighters and leaders from the Greek city-states, all of whom were impeccable in both courage and combat skills. However, despite the army's strength, Menelaus still faced two major challenges, Odysseus and Achilles. The involvement of these two heroes posed the greatest challenge in gathering his forces. Odysseus, a hero known for his wisdom and cunning, was living a happy life with his wife, Penelope, and their young son, Telemachus, on the island of Ithaca. His beloved family was the foundation of his entire existence, and the thought of embarking on an unknown and potentially disastrous expedition was something he was unwilling to part with. In an attempt to avoid going to war, Odysseus devised a clever ruse to feign madness. He began sowing seeds in a chaotic and irrational manner in his fields and acted strangely toward the visiting messengers. This was a clever scheme by Odysseus, but he did not anticipate that it would be uncovered by another shrewd hero, Palamedes. Palamedes, the clever hero, saw through Odysseus's trick and exposed his scheme to the public, forcing Odysseus to face the inevitable war that was approaching. Although Odysseus was ultimately compelled to join the army, he never forgot the humiliation of being unmasked by Palamedes. In later stories, Odysseus took brutal revenge on Palamedes. Odysseus's vengeance was not only a confrontation on the battlefield, but also delved into the depths of human nature. When wisdom and cunning meet, the result is often the most ruthless. On the other hand, another hero who could not be ignored, Achilles, became another major challenge that Menelaus had to face. Achilles, the half-god, half-human hero born of the sea goddess Thetis, possessed invincible fighting power. According to legend, when he was still an infant, his mother Thetis, in order to make him invulnerable, dipped him into the river Styx, which rendered Achilles nearly an invincible warrior. However, in her attempt to protect him, Thetis overlooked the one vulnerable spot, his right heel. This detail in the legend ultimately became the key to Achilles' fate. When Achilles was still a young boy, Thetis heard a prophecy. Her son would either live a dull, ordinary life or die heroically in a brief but glorious victory. This prophecy was nothing short of a nightmare for Thetis. She wished for her son to live a long life, far from war and death. As a result, she hid Achilles away and took him to the island of Skyros in the Aegean Sea. There, Achilles disguised himself as a girl and lived with King Lycomed's daughters, away from the battlefield and bloodshed. As preparations neared completion and the Greek army finally gathered, there remained one crucial problem: Achilles' participation in the war. According to the prophecy, without him, Troy could not be taken, and the war would have no hope of victory. Menelaus understood the importance of this and decided to consult the seer Calchas for guidance. Calchas, a renowned seer known for his prophetic abilities, had long been aware of this significant matter. After hearing Menelaus' request, Calchas revealed a shocking piece of information. Achilles was currently in hiding on the island of Skyros, living in disguise as a woman. This revelation made Menelaus realize that he had to find Achilles as quickly as possible and persuade him to join the war, for this was the key to success. Thus, Menelaus decided to send Odysseus to the island of Skyros to find a reluctant hero. Odysseus, known for his intelligence and sharp wit, was unafraid of any challenge. In order to uncover Achilles' true identity, Odysseus devised a clever plan. He disguised himself as a merchant, bringing various fine ornaments to the island, and began displaying his goods to the king's daughters in the palace. Odysseus skillfully conversed with these young girls and soon discovered that, except for one, the other girls showed great interest in his products. However, Odysseus' sharp eyes did not miss the one girl who stood aside. Showing no interest, she was the one he was looking for. In that moment, Odysseus immediately had his answer, but to confirm his suspicion, he decided to test further. Odysseus then displayed some more eye-catching war equipment and secretly signaled the sound of military music. Upon hearing the military music, the girl became unusually excited, unable to control herself as she rushed towards the weapons and grabbed the helmet and sword. This action immediately revealed her true identity. She was Achilles. Achilles' longing and passion for war were clear, which made Odysseus quickly confirm that she was the hero he had been searching for. When Achilles realized that he could no longer conceal his identity, he decided to accept his fate and agreed to join the upcoming expedition. He did not go alone but brought his loyal friend and relative, Patroclus, with him. Patroclus was not only Achilles' closest companion, but also a fierce warrior. He joined Achilles in the campaign, leading a powerful army composed of Thessalian forces, the famous Ant Army, and provided 50 ships, offering crucial support for the expedition. With Achilles' arrival, the strength of the entire Greek army greatly increased, and the possibility of victory in the Trojan War seemed much more attainable. However, during the preparations, Agamemnon and the other Greek leaders felt complex and anxious. During the 10-year preparation for the war, the Greeks gave their all, with careful planning for both military and logistical support. At the same time, they did not forget about the efforts for peace. After all, the Greek kings and Priam were not entirely irreconcilable. Ideally, avoiding a pointless war would be the best choice. Therefore, Menelaus and Odysseus joined forces to form a diplomatic mission, traveling to Troy to present Priam with a demand: return Helen. Despite the mission being warmly received by King Priam, when they formally made their request, Priam's response was cold and unyielding. The demand was brutally rejected. This rejection deeply disappointed the mission and further solidified the Greek resolve to resolve the matter through force. The ambassadors returned to Greece and issued orders for all ships to gather at Aulis, in Boeotia. This was a significant moment, as the size of the Greek army had never been so vast. 100,000 warriors assembled at Aulis, and over 1,000 ships were anchored in the bay. The sole objective of these fleets and soldiers was clear: to conquer Troy, reclaim Helen, and fight for the dignity and honor of Greece. However, just as the fleet was about to set sail, a miraculous event occurred. A sacrificial ritual was taking place by the shore when suddenly, a snake climbed up a plane tree and devoured 9 sparrow chicks perched on its branches. Then, it consumed the mother sparrow before being turned into stone by Zeus. This strange sight immediately caught the attention of everyone present, and the seer Calchas interpreted it as an omen. Calchas explained that this miracle foretold that the Trojan War would last for 9 years, and only in the 10th year would the city fall. The revelation of this prophecy further strengthened the Greek army's resolve for the upcoming war. Despite the uncertainty of the war's outcome, it signified that victory was ultimately destined. No matter how much time it took, the walls of Troy would eventually be breached, and Greece's glory would be restored. The long journey of the fleet finally began, with the Greek army under Agamemnon's command gathering to launch this expedition that would shock the ancient world. However, the grand campaign did not go as smoothly as expected, and from the very start, it was filled with setbacks. When the Greek fleet set sail, due to navigation errors, they mistook the coast of Mysia for that of Troy, landing and beginning to ravage the land, only to encounter an unexpected foe: the army of Mysia. The kingdom of Mysia was ruled by Telephus, the son of Heracles, a strong and experienced hero. Upon learning that foreign forces had invaded, he immediately gathered his troops to fight and successfully drove the Greek army out of his territory. During the battle, Telephus was unfortunately injured when his foot was struck by Achilles' spear, leaving him seriously wounded. Although the Greeks were forced to retreat after the battle, it was here that Patroclus and Achilles fought side by side, displaying bravery and fearlessness, supporting each other on the battlefield, and forging a deep friendship. Achilles, not only an invincible hero on the battlefield, was also a warrior with exceptional medical skills. After the battle, even though Patroclus was not seriously injured, Achilles carefully bandaged his wound, showing the deep bond of friendship he shared with his comrade. This moment became a symbol of their heroic friendship, a bond that remained unbroken in the years to come, regardless of life or death. However, Telephus' wound became increasingly severe, leading him to seek guidance from the oracle. After consulting with the soothsayer, Telephus learned that only the one who inflicted his wound could heal it. This prophecy led Telephus to seek out Achilles for help. During this encounter, Achilles not only assisted in healing his wound but also, at the urging of Odysseus, agreed to let Telephus serve as a guide for the Greek expedition to Troy, helping the army find the quickest route for their voyage. Yet, just as the Greek army was preparing to embark once again, fate cruelly intervened. Agamemnon, due to a sacred mistake, killed the sacred deer of Artemis, which enraged the goddess. Not only did she become furious at this act, but she also cast a merciless curse, preventing the Greek fleet from sailing smoothly. The fleet found itself stranded at sea, unable to progress, as bad weather and strong winds continually plagued the vast army. In the face of this situation, Calchas, the interpreter of the oracle, understood the divine forces behind the storm. After careful consideration, he announced the solution. Only a sacrifice could appease Artemis's anger, and the sacrifice must be Agamemnon's daughter, Iphigenia. This order was a crushing blow to Agamemnon, as a father, who could not easily part with his own daughter. After much internal struggle and heartbreaking emotional turmoil, Agamemnon ultimately made the painful decision. He agreed to sacrifice Iphigenia in order to appease Artemis's wrath. This process put his role as a father in direct conflict with his responsibility as a leader, making him struggle between the demands of war and his familial bonds. Ultimately, this intertwining of fate changed Iphigenia's destiny. At the last moment, Artemis intervened and saved her. She took Iphigenia away and transformed her into a priestess, sparing her from becoming a sacrifice. This moment, filled with mystery and drama, once again highlighted the powerful influence of the gods in the course of the war. With Artemis's anger now appeased, the fleet set sail again and stopped at the island of Tenedos. There, the Greek army faced another disaster. The renowned archer Philoctetes was bitten by a poisonous snake on the island, suffering severe injuries. His wound not only worsened, but began to emit a dreadful odor. As Philoctetes possessed the bow and arrows given to him by Heracles on his deathbed, his strength was immense, and the Greek army relied on these weapons, hoping to use them to attack Troy. However, due to the unbearable stench of the wound and the inability to treat it effectively, Odysseus suggested sending Philoctetes to the island of Lesbos. This made Philoctetes furious, feeling abandoned and in a truly miserable situation. Isolated on the island with no help, he was left to his fate. However, this event would later become a crucial turning point in the war. As the fleet set off again, the curtain was raised on the Trojan War. Thank you all for watching today's episode. With the fleet embarking on the expedition to Troy, what will happen next in the fight against Troy? Well, we'll have to wait for the next episode to find out. If you enjoyed today's content, remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and share with your friends so we can discuss this legendary story together. If you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to leave a comment below, and let's dive into these fascinating details of history and mythology. See you next time, and don't forget to stay curious as we continue to explore more myths and history together.